Hey guys, Matt and V here for the Inception Agenda, and today we're going to be talking to you about weight loss, fat loss, but specifically targeting in on calories and dieting and calorie restriction. So this is more around the whole food side of things and this whole calories in, calories out, and there's a fair bit of nonsense out there about this, that if you just restrict yourself and, live off 1,200 calories a day, like a lot of those challenges tend to recommend people do, and just some of the pitfalls when people get into those types of diets.
Yeah, exactly. So basically we get asked so much about weight loss, and the majority of it really comes down to calories. The whole principle of weight loss is calories in, calories out. And that gets twisted and turned in all parts. And so we're going to tell you guys a little bit about what we think, what we believe on how to utilize calories better. So Matt, as you know, over the years, we get here time and time again, someone comes and asks us, they get put on, say, 2,500 calories, and then all of a sudden, within a few weeks, they're down to 1,500. So what's your opinion on how someone should really start off picking how much calories they should be on?
Well, firstly, you've got to establish what your BMR is. And I suppose I talk from personal experience and I guess our shared experience with this. I sort of got into this whole area of bodybuilding, fitness, almost by accident and learning about it myself. And I sort of started out, and at first I, worked out what my calories should be. And, I was at 3,000 a day and I was making great progress. And then, okay, let's tighten it up even more and drop it down to 2,700 a day. And then before I knew it, I was basically living off very pure macro sources and probably putting in 1,700 calories a day and training for about 2.5 hours a day on that. And I constantly felt weak. I was shredded, but just had absolutely no energy. And then you took a look at my diet and you're like, no. This is not the way to be going about it. And, you put me on I think it was about 3,500 calories as my first diet. And I remember when you gave it to me, I was like, I am going to get so fat if I eat this much food. And I didn't. And I was fuller, I was stronger, and I maintained my leanness. So, you've got to start to look at, how much training the person's doing, male or female, how much muscle they're already carrying, those sorts of things. Everything's going to influence what their likely BMR is going to be.
Yeah, so just so the viewers know, Matt, BMR is a calculation that we do based on metabolic rate. So everyone, me, Matt, you, have all different metabolic rates. So someone who's highly active is going to have a far greater need for more calories than someone who's sedentary per day.
And even if they're carrying more muscle, just you can still be relatively sedentary and things, but if you're carrying a massive amount of muscle, everything you do burns more energy.
So it's very important to know your BMR because that gives you such a good start point in your weight loss journey.
And a lot of it's relatively simple. You can get a pretty simple handle on it just by gender, age, height, current weight. Will generally give a pretty good ballpark estimate of saying, you're 2,500 to 3,000 calories a day, somewhere in that range. And so you clean up the calories that sit within that range, and we'll sort of talk about the types of calories later on. But that gives you a good indication of where to start. And there are free calculators everywhere on the internet. Try, general rule of anything, research between 3 and 5 different sources, get a good idea of what your BMR is supposed to be by looking across those 3 to 5 different sources. You'll get an idea of where the outliers are and the ones which aren't calculating that accurately. And it'll give you a good idea of where to start.
Exactly. It's just a good start point. So absolutely agree. And then we head into, obviously, as Matt was saying, you've got to be able to start off with a certain amount of macronutrient value as well. So individually, we all require different amounts, depending on type of training we're doing, male, female, lot of topics go into it really, but we're going to focus on just your basics.
Yeah.
You know, how much an average person looking to lose weight should be utilizing protein, carbs, and fats. Male for female.
Yeah. Yeah, and so you've got kind of your standard ratios when you look at that. So when we talk about macronutrients, we're just talking about the 3 very basic macronutrients being your fats, your carbs, and your protein. Now, a lot of people, when they start out dieting, I've made this mistake. I'm sure we've all made this mistake at some point. You just go hard on the protein and you start winding back the fats and the carbs wherever you can, because you think, the more protein I have, so I'll go to an 80-20 protein diet or something like this. And your body just can't process that much protein.
And people are scared of carbs.
Yeah, and people get scared of carbs, and carbs are fundamentally where our energy comes from.
So what we believe basically is, each macronutrient is valuable in its own resources. So, your protein's there for your muscle recovery, and obviously being able to function better, immune system, muscular immune system. There's so many variations to where our proteins utilize. Carbohydrates is obviously glycogen, so muscular fuel, and fat's so important for hormone levels, whether it be estrogen, testosterone, all combined. So if you take them individually, they're all so important. So why cut one out? Yeah. So it's about balancing the 3 to your requirements. Yeah. And generally in a weight loss program would recommend obviously a higher protein, followed by higher fat and then carb.
Yes. Yeah.
So
and so you see all sorts of ratios, 50% protein, 30% fats, 20% carbs. If you're sort of cutting quite aggressively, if you're just trying to lose weight gradually, you can sort of go 40% protein and then 30% carbs, 30% fats.
Absolutely.
But then it also comes down to the quality. So, you can say, if you look at ham from the supermarket, or bacon, that's very high in protein, but it ain't the same as chicken or chicken breast. It's not the same as white fish. It's not the same as tuna fish. It's not the same as a piece of steak.
Yeah, correct.
And so the quality of the macronutrients is also really important. So, if you're going to say you can have some oats and that's your source of carbohydrates, or some ice cream is your source of carbohydrates, completely different.
Yeah. So, and just to clarify that, Matt, a lot of people out there say that, eating, say, 500 calories of ice cream is the same as eating 500 calories of, say, oats, because a calorie is a calorie in their eyes.
Well, that's that whole if it fits your macros type thing.
Yes, correct.
And I get where people are coming from with that. If it fits your macros, I don't want to rubbish it, because for some people it does work. It's a very simple way of running a very basic diet for them. It won't work in the long term, because at the end of the day, using simple sugars is never going to be as good for your body as using clean, complex carbohydrates. And then you start to get into, even though I don't want to talk about it in this video, all of your micronutrients, all of your minerals and everything that, the micronutrients and the minerals that you get from, say, having kumara as a source, and the fiber that you get compared to, say, ice cream. There's, no fiber content in it. There's no useful micronutrients in it.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
You, at the end of the day, take 2 people, put one of them on if it fits your macros and one of them on exactly the same amount of calories but clean eating. I know which one of those people is going to look better and feel better.
Yeah, 100%. And I've done both, because I had to trial it out. And I always feel better when I'm using, richer foods, pure clean foods. Energy levels, sleep, strength, recovery is always better on clean food. Yeah. It might be old school, but I completely believe in it, because I've done both. And my metabolism, as you know, is quite fast, so I can get away with a lot as well. But I still prefer majority of my diet to be from good sources.
Yeah, and you feel fuller.
100%.
And not fuller as in muscle volume fuller. But if you eat some chicken, some rice, some broccoli as a dinner, or you eat, a smaller portion of potato chips and a bit of pizza or something like that because it fits your macros, then I know which one's going to make you feel fuller for longer. And one you're going to be much less likely to binge and step outside of the parameters of your diet. Whereas if it fits your macros, people tend to just pile up on the junk and the things that they enjoy. And so they end up feeling hungry all the time.
Exactly. So, so in our opinion, a calorie, yes, it is a calorie, but there's so much more to it than that.
Yeah, there's a lot of research at the moment coming out. The original studies that were done for how calories were actually assessed, and it was done by basically burning items of food and seeing what the thermal load was that came off the food. And it was very old studies. I can't remember the exact dating. I believe it was in the late 1800s. I don't know, in the 1870s comes to mind or something. But they were basically doing those studies where they would burn different types of food to try and determine what the caloric value was of the food. Now, those studies aren't considered to be inaccurate, but they are considered to be very dated. I read the New Scientist a lot, and they do a lot of articles on nutrition. And some of the latest research is actually starting to say that they don't even fully understand the reasons why junk food's bad to us, why junk food actually leads to weight gain, but they know that a calorie isn't a calorie anymore. Yeah. They know that that whole thing, that a calorie of sugar and a calorie of complex carbohydrates, it just doesn't stack up anymore to what the modern research is showing.
Absolutely, and we've seen this for years. So it's really about picking the right calories going into your body. You're going to achieve those weight loss goals a lot sooner, a lot faster, more effectively. And the main thing is you're not throwing your insulin balance all over the place. So
exactly.
Cravings come down, your hormone levels are a lot better, and you can just live, day to day feeling a lot better.
Yeah, better skin, better digestion, just everything. Just that's all around health. It's just better.
Exactly.
And I think a lot of it probably does relate to gut microbiome and things. If you're chucking sugars in there, we all know what that does to gut balance. We know that gut balance influences hormones, and we know that that influences body composition. So there's a lot of research in that field as well. And then I guess, you could just go the other extreme. Why don't we all just cut to 1,000 calories a day, torture ourselves for 2 months, lose the body weight, and then you can just start eating however you want again. Why is that not a good idea?
Yeah, well, basically it's called metabolic damage, and we've got, we have a principle called homeostasis. So say someone's on a 3,000 calorie diet, your body starts to adapt to 3,000 calories. Now, all of a sudden you bump that down to 1,000 calories, which a lot of people seem to do. Your body becomes accustomed to 1,000. And below 1,000 calories. Now we start talking about implementing calories for helping brain function, immune system, central nervous system support. Everything in our body requires calories because calories are energy for our body. So if someone drops to 1,000 calories, their body has to survive 1,000 calories. It gets used to living off 1,000 calories, right? So no longer your body can sustain a rate of energy supplied to your brain, your essential organs, etc. than it can on 3,000 calories. And then you still got to live. You still got to sleep. You still got to eat. Everything requires calories. Yeah. And so what you're doing is basically, yes, you will lose a certain amount of body fat by reducing calories, but then it stops. Because your body needs to survive. And that's the whole thing. It won't feel safe. If your body does not feel safe, it will not release calories as energy, as fat loss, And if it doesn't do that, then people seem to drop it more. And that's when we lead into a lot of health issues.
Yep. And you can't sustain 1,000 calories a day forever.
No.
At some point, you're going to start eating more again.
Yep.
And at that point, up goes the weight.
Yeah, correct.
Because you've configured your body to operate, as you said, it's adjusted its homeostasis to be at a much lower level. And so now all of a sudden you're eating triple the calories that your body is used to having, and you're going to have weight gain. And that's why you see that whole rebound weight gain where a lot of people diet and then they come off the diet and they end up carrying more weight than they did when they went in.
Yeah, because your mind, your body will make you do it because it does not feel safe. Your body doesn't feel safe. You can be as strong as you want. Two things will happen. You're going to become sick and you'll start to put on fat anyway, or you'll binge and your body will regain its energy that way.
Yeah. So, we're just advocates of trying to look at this for maintaining long-term health.
Correct.
Like you look at how you and I manage our diets and stuff. We don't maintain, lean, ripped physiques 365. It's just not possible. You just can't sustain it. despite what Instagram leads you to believe, where people only post up all of their shots for that 3-day photo shoot, which they looked good for, and then they just spread them out over the rest of the year.
Don't even get me started.
You know, it's not realistic.
No.
Nobody stays that lean year round.
No.
And so it's much better to work out how you can get your body to a healthy, sustainable level where you can still have the foods that you enjoy in your diet, not overindulge. But, you know, if I go to, you know, like just because I've got one sitting there next to me with coffees, you know, I might order 5 long blacks and then every 5th drink I have might be a mocha or something like that. So you just learn to have patterns that work for your lifestyle where you allow yourself to have those treats. But then if you want to, say, you know, tighten things up for summer holidays or because you're getting married or whatever your reason is, then you can do that because you've got your body configured to be able to deal with a higher amount of calories. And then it's much easier to do short-term reductions in the calories and lean your body out when you want to, but keeping it in a healthy place at the rest of the time.
Exactly. So it's long-term, isn't it? That's what we're looking for. So basically, to round it up, you know, we recommend setting up your BMR. So you get a nice gradual base of what your calories should be on per day. And then you work from that value. You work out what macronutrients are more vital to your goal, as in your weight loss goal. And then you pick the right caloric foods to accompany that goal.
Yeah, and be careful with your BMR when you're calculating it, not to double count. So in terms of your cardio, so if you say fill out a BMR calculator and you say I'm highly active and I exercise twice a day, it's going to give you a BMR, which includes accounting for that exercise. So you don't then go and do 2 half-an-hour sessions on the treadmill and burn maybe, 300, 400 calories on the treadmill for each session, and then say, okay, well, it gave me 3,000, but now I'm going to add on another couple of 400, so now it's 3,800. You've got to either calculate the BMR saying you're sedentary and then add your exercise on top, or you include it in the calculation and then don't add it on later on. It's just something I've seen a few people do that. They kind of make that mistake where they don't account for it, and then one way or another they end up under or overeating still. So yeah,
absolutely.
Cool. Well, this was Matt and V for the Inception Agenda. I hope that you found that useful. Thanks.
Thanks, mate.